Welcome back to Visual Brain. Last time we dove into the first gate of dreaming. Well, today we're taking the next step and exploring the second gate. And let me tell you, this is where things get a lot more challenging. For anyone just joining us, we're digging into the works of Carlos Castaneda, who wrote about his training with a shaman named Don Juan, a man he calls a sorcerer. And the next lesson Don gives him, it is a total mystery. So right off the bat, Don Juan hits his apprentice with this instruction. And you gotta ask, what does that even mean? How can you wake up but stay asleep at the same time? It sounds like a total paradox, right? But this one cryptic sentence is the key to unlocking a whole new level of awareness. And it really sets the stage for a mind-bending journey. All right, so here's our game plan. We're gonna start with the challenge itself. What makes the second gate so tough? Then we'll get into the technique for actually hopping between dreams. After that, we'll uncover the real purpose behind this wild exercise. And finally, we'll wrap up with a serious warning from the sorcerer himself. Okay, so after you've mastered the first gate and you can control your dreams, the next task is to wake up from one dream and find yourself in another one without ever actually waking up in your bed. It's a task that on the surface feels completely and utterly impossible. But here's the twist. The instruction isn't meant to be taken just literally. It's more like a mental workout. It's a drill designed to strengthen something called dreaming attention, which is kind of like a super focused awareness that helps you stay stable and lucid inside a dream. Think of it like a mental muscle for focus, one that gets so strong it can actually bend the reality of the dream itself. So this raises a really important question, right? If your physical body is lying in bed, then what part of you is actually doing the traveling between these dream worlds? I mean, it's obviously not your physical self, so that must mean some other part of us becomes active when we're in this state. And that's what sorcerers call the energy body. It's like an energetic duplicate of you. No physical mass, just pure consciousness. When a dreamer manages to cross that second gate, it's the energy body that's on the move. And that, right there, is why control is so absolutely crucial. You're basically navigating with a part of yourself that's completely untethered from the physical world. So the big question is, how do you actually do this? For Castaneda, it was incredibly hard. I mean, he spent a whole year trying and failing to follow Don Juan's instructions. But then his breakthrough came from a place he totally didn't expect. He discovered that instead of trying to force his way into a new dream, all he had to do was fix his dreaming attention on one single object in the dream he was already in. When he did that, this weird, wind-like force would just pull his awareness through that object and into a brand new dream. So he wasn't pushing his way out, he was literally being pulled through. And after this happened, Don Juan laid out the two main ways to cross the second gate. First, there's the direct method, where you basically stage the whole thing. You dream that you're dreaming, and then you dream that you wake up. And then there's the trigger method, which is what Castaneda stumbled upon, using any old item in your dream as a kind of portal. But here's where it gets really interesting. Mastering these techniques, well, that's not the final goal. It's really just training. This whole complicated exercise of changing dreams is just a drill to sharpen a specific skill for a much, much more profound and, frankly, dangerous purpose. So why even bother? Why would sorcerers spend years trying to master this one specific skill? Well, the answer takes us way beyond just personal dream control and into an entirely different dimension of reality. According to Don Juan, our dreams are basically a two-way street. And this is where it gets truly wild. He claims that just as our awareness can travel out, other energies can travel in. He calls them scouts, bursts of foreign energy from other universes that show up in our dreams as weird objects or strange characters. The real task of the second gate is to train your attention so you can spot these scouts, separate them from your normal dream stuff, and then follow them back to where they came from. And where do they lead? To a completely different universe. One that's populated by an entirely different kind of life, what he calls inorganic beings. The whole drill of learning to change dreams is just to give your energy body the stability and control it needs to consciously make that journey. So what are these beings like? Well, from a sorcerer's point of view, where they can actually see energy, organic beings like us are these round, bright balls of energy. We're like fireflies, vibrant, but with a pretty short lifespan. Inorganic beings, on the other hand, are more like candles. They're longer, not quite as bright, but their consciousness is way deeper, calmer, and it lasts for an almost infinite amount of time. Now, as you can probably imagine, just popping into a universe full of ancient, conscious beings is not something you do lightly. Don Juan is very, very clear that this stage of dreaming is packed with enormous danger, and it demands total sobriety and discipline from the dreamer. See, this other world, it kind of acts as a filter. The inorganic beings, they know when dreamers show up in their world, and they're super interested in the unique energy that we organic beings have. They'll test you, probe you for your weaknesses, and if a dreamer gives in or loses control, they could end up trapped there, permanently. Yeah, the stakes are absolute. I think this quote really frames the kind of caution you need. The other world isn't good or evil, it's just different. Don Juan's point is that our own world is already full of predators and powerful forces. The universe next door is no different. You have to go in with respect and a really clear head. And this whole thing leaves us with a fascinating, kind of spooky final thought. If sorcerers can actually train themselves to spot energy from other worlds leaking into their dreams, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What unfamiliar items, strange people, or bizarre situations in our own dreams might not be products of our own minds at all? What kind of scouts might we already be meeting, completely unaware?